But we want to go to our panel. Live with us tonight is host of Dana on the Blaze TV, Dana Loesch, former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik, and nationally syndicated radio host Richard Fowler. Mark Eiglarsh and Arthur Aidala will also join us in a moment. Thank you all for being here. So Dana, even the usual defenders of the police are saying this one's different. This looks terrible, and I've heard many cops say it looks inexcusable.
Well, the question that I have, Megan, is what is the policy for Chicago police? What is the policy here? I mean, is it to neutralize a threat or is it to eliminate a threat? I mean, 16 shots. I mean, I'm assuming that the officer carried a Glock. That's 15 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. He unloaded all of that. And as you were discussing in the video, the first couple of shots were when McDonald was standing, and then after he fell and after he was no longer a threat, was there a need to continue firing at that point? That's something that I would really like to hear from the police department on.
Commissioner Kerik, your thoughts on it, because you know, you're typically in the position of defending these cops in these situations. Can you defend this?
You know what, Megan, not really. Look, I've been involved in gun battles. My partner was shot in a gun battle I was involved in. I have to say, as to Dana's question, one, you don't shoot to kill, you don't shoot to wound, you shoot to stop. First of all, there was no imminent threat that I see.
And he was, and I just want to interrupt you because we didn't tell this to the viewers, but police were responding to complaints about somebody breaking into cars and stealing radios. An autopsy report showed that McDonald was on PCP, a hallucinogenic drug, in his system. But I know we said we're only going to show the video once, but I do want the audience to see what we're talking about. He was walking with a knife, a 3-inch knife, they said, but he was walking away from the officers. If we could just show that one more time. I just want to show what I'm talking about. You can see, Commissioner, here he is going down the road, and then you'll see it appears that he is walking away from the officers toward a fence when the cop who pulls up, who's now been charged, gets out of the car and just opens fire. Go ahead.
And Megan, there has to be imminent threat to the cop or the general public. There doesn't appear to be. And then you have the cop firing the first 2 rounds that takes the subject down. Why he had to fire 14 additional rounds, I cannot answer. I don't really have an explanation for.
Richard, the cop's been charged with first-degree murder, but it took 13 months.
13 months too long, Megan. 13 months too long. I think the people, the protesters in Chicago, what they're saying is exactly right. This prosecutor took 13 months to charge this police officer. And let's be very clear. Mr. McDonald's character is not in question here. Officer Van Dyke's character is in question. 18 times he's had different citizen complaints. 2 of those in which there was excessive force. There was no disciplinary action taken by the Chicago Police Department. There's so many red hands on this one. It's unbelievable.
There was an allegation of his using the N-word and other racially charged
Hey, I believe it. He shot him 16 times, Megan.
You know, Richard, do you agree, as others have posited tonight, though, that this has a greater societal narrative? Because we heard Charles Blow of the Washington Post over on a network tonight, another network, saying he doesn't want to analyze these cases on a case-by-case basis anymore. It's time to paint with a broader brush and say society has a problem.
And Charles Blow is exactly right. This is not even a black or a white or a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue of humanity. I can go down the laundry list of cities, whether it's West Charleston, whether it's Charleston, whether it's Ferguson, New York City, now Chicago, right. Cleveland. It's happening all across the country. This is a time for Americans, no matter what party you belong to take a step back and say, we have a huge problem here, and we've really got to come together as a nation to solve it.
Stand by. We're going to pick this up on the other side. Dana will respond. And we're back now with the breaking news out of Chicago, Illinois, where protesters are marching in and around downtown Chicago in the wake of murder charges being brought, first-degree murder charges being brought against a police officer who shot and killed a 17-year-old black man 1 year ago. Dana Loesch, your thoughts on whether this does speak to a greater societal issue?
I do think that we have a greater societal issue, but a couple of quick points here, Megan. First off, and this is not to excuse the actions of Officer Van Dyke. I very much want to hear the justification and his reasoning for emptying his entire magazine after the threat had been neutralized. But he was responding to a call. Someone had called in a threat, and that individual was a young man who was on PCP and who's waving around a knife in the middle of the street. I think that it is disingenuous to ignore that fact. Secondly, whenever anyone includes Ferguson, St. Louis close as my hometown. Ferguson is the result of someone choosing to act in a criminal manner. You had a young man named Mike Brown who chose to strong-arm rob on camera a store. Then, according to numerous forensic reports, Megan, he went after a cop's gun. He had gun residue on his hands. When you try to go after a cop with his own gun after strong-arm robbing a store, you could be met with lethal force.
Cop was
that
exonerated.
Is the hazard of
that
making
cop
that
was
choice.
exonerated,
Yes.
and that specific
that needs to be
officer
excluded.
should not be included in the
Well,
stats.
right.
Although Ferguson itself had issues with cops. Hold on, Commissioner, because I want to get Commissioner Carrick in. You know, Commissioner, so often when we see an event like this, we see many folks rush to condemn police at large.
You know what, Megan? I think you have to keep it in context. I know there's a lot of people that want a broad brush. The reality is cops make 20 million arrests a year, 20 million throughout the United States. There's a lot of deadly physical force. There's a lot of things that happen in those arrests, physical confrontations. We take 5, 10 of these events a year, and then we want to classify the entire police nation, police service as, you know, racist and
I just want to jump
overbearing.
in. Just want to jump in as we're seeing an extraordinary moment. Look what's happening here.
Well, listen, you're going to have guys like this, you know, they want to instigate, they want to create a...
What is he instigating, Bernie? I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt.
Richard, look at him.
What
This
is
is
he
a cop out
instigating?
there accused of doing nothing wrong,
And
trying to keep
this
the
guy
peace.
is having a silent protest with his police officer.
He
This
gets
is his
right in his
First
face
Amendment
and
right.
stares him down. This cop hasn't done anything wrong.
That is his First Amendment right, Megan. And
To
you,
get
out of
in a
all people,
cop's
Megan,
face and
believe in
stare him down.
protecting. This is his First Amendment right. I don't understand.
You think that's fine? You have no problem with this?
This is his First Amendment right. The
It's
biggest
not a
problem
question
here
of
is,
what his constitutional rights are. It's a question of what's appropriate.
and I see nothing wrong with this. I think what is inappropriate is this prosecutor took 13 months to prosecute this individual when this police officer had 18 different complaints against him from citizens of Chicago.
That's what
Correct,
happens when
and
you have
no
a
one
Democrat-run
here, as far
city,
as I can
Richard.
tell, is defending that officer. The question is whether it speaks to a greater narrative, as some allege, and this moment here. Let me bring in Mark and Arthur. Mark, I want to ask you whether this prosecutor, because now many of these protesters want her kicked off, saying 13 months is too long.
Well, it's one or the other. Either she needed to wait that long because there are facts and circumstances that we're unaware of, and I find it hard to believe based upon that video, or she really did drag her feet. The question is why? I find it disturbing, Megan.
Arthur, your thoughts?
I mean, the bottom line is the fact that he was on PCP is irrelevant. Unless the police officer knew he was on PCP, then it would be relevant. But there's no evidence that he knew that he was on PCP, number one. Number two, he wasn't, I don't think there was a call that he was a threat. I think it was a call that he was slashing tires and stealing from a car. So there's no excuse from that. And Megan, here's the bottom line. If that was a civilian that executed a police officer on video the way we saw it, and it was 13 months before an indictment came down, that prosecutor would be forced to resign.
Commissioner Carrick, I want to go back to you on what we're seeing here on screen.
Listen, you're seeing silent protests, you know, and I agree with Gary McCarthy said what he said earlier, the superintendent there. You know, they have a right to protest. They have a right to peacefully protest as long as it doesn't get out of hand. You know, then that's fine. They don't have a right to commit criminal conduct.
How does the cop do his job? I mean, what is this like for a police officer?
Well, listen, you know, you're going to have this kind of stuff. You know, people want to make a name for themselves. They want to look good on camera. They want to, you know, whatever.
Oh, stop it.
Richard, I understand. Richard, I understand the outrage. I get that. Everybody understands as we see that tape. I don't know what we just saw. Your
Megan.
thoughts?
I mean, here's the thing, Megan. This outrage, this is not the first time that the African-American community is dealing with this. This is countless times, over and over again. These young people are angry because their lives are literally in question on the streets of Chicago.
But Richard, in Chicago, the major problem is African Americans killing other African Americans.
The point is that their lives are in question. This police officer put 16 bullets into this young man for absolutely no reason. Absolutely no reason.
That is certainly how the tape looks, but the question is whether or why we don't see these kinds of protests when we see the crime statistics that we see in inner city Chicago with black on black crime, Richard.
Listen, I think that we're mixing apples and oranges here. We could talk about black on black crime and how we solve black on black crime, but what's in question today is the people that put their hands on the Bible and swear to protect and serve the community are harming the community, and that is a problem. And it's not a Republican problem. It's not a Democratic problem. It's not a black problem. It's not a white problem. It's an American problem.
I would disagree slightly with the party affiliation because
Hold
let's
on one
look at
second,
who
Dana,
was.
because I want to go back to Mike, who's in the middle
belong to any
of
party.
the standby.
Why
Let's
did
see what's
Emanuel
happening on the
not
ground with Mike
pursue this?
Tobin. Mike?
They ready to do some shit.
Mike, can you hear me? Okay, he can't hear me, but he's
sir, and it doesn't include me.
trying to hear some of the sound from the protesters there and get their message on TV. Here is specifically what they say. As we told the viewers earlier, one of the things they're ticked off about is the delay in bringing this case. Now, the police, the city, I should say, already agreed to a $5 million settlement with McDonald's family even before they filed a lawsuit. So they have no problem acknowledging liability in the case. But Arthur, that's not enough. And there's a question about whether this case is going to be can be tried in Chicago, given the release of this video, which you can bet the defense attorney is going to argue was too inflammatory.
And I have no idea at this point, with the little that we know, what a defense would be here, because I think, Megan, you said 6 seconds. He's out of the car for 6 seconds. Unless they're going to hear a radio run, that's what he knows from what he's been told in the radio. Unless there's something there that he may have had a gun on him, but there's not that imminent threat that he would need to justify his actions.
Stand by, Arthur, because I want to go to Mike now. Mike?
All right, coming us. Got it. Oh, hi, Megan. All right, we're keeping an eye on the situation here. And you see you've got some of the people with some of the angry talk. All right, so there's a little bit adult language there in what's going on. And some people are trying to block our shot. And you can see we've got a line of police officers here, and you got the demonstrators. And that's just kind of as it's going. The crowd, I can't really give you a good idea for how much the crowd has grown throughout the evening, but it's not a rowdy crowd. And again, the police have a soft profile right now. They don't have the riot gear out here, mostly bike cops and cops in a line right now with a soft profile, trying to handle it as gently as they can.
And the protesters,
Megan?
Mike, I mean, from what we've seen, seem to be obeying the law, but you tell us.
Largely obeying the law. I mean, the only thing they're doing is blocking some intersections and walking down the street. I haven't seen anything that I could really call a rowdy protest other than a lot of chanting, Megan.
And you can understand the message tonight, but Dana Loesch, the question is whether too many young black men are being shot by cops unjustifiably, and B, too many cops are being painted with the same brush thanks to the bad cops who engage in those acts.
And we've had a lot of cops shot, too, Megan. We can't forget that either. There's been a rash of murders of police officers. But I do absolutely believe, I mean, again, St. Louis is my hometown, and I grew up noticing the distrust between the black community and the police department there. And I've also seen some good and some bad leaders come in. And we've seen some elected officials that didn't have the police's back when they needed to. And we've also seen some that have really stepped up. But there has to be there has to be something to bridge that gap in that community. And you can't, and for all of the individuals who have said, you know what, you need more black officers, you need more people to step up. I think that would be fantastic, but it's hard to recruit, Megan, when you see them demonized so much nationally.
Yeah, and at a time when, you know, the good cops out there, we need them. We need them badly.